The night his son fell asleep hungry, Daniel made a decision that broke something inside him and rebuilt something even stronger. The apartment was silent except for the soft hum of an old fan and the uneven rhythm of a child's breathing. Daniel sat on the edge of the worn-out couch, staring at the unpaid bills scattered across the table like accusations. His hands were rough, his eyes tired, and his heart heavier than he had ever known it to be. Being a single father wasn't something he had planned for, and certainly not like this, alone, struggling, and constantly afraid of failing the one person who depended on him the most. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what truly matters, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them. Daniel had once lived a different life. A steady job, a small but happy family, dreams that felt within reach. But life had a way of unraveling everything in a single moment. Loss had come quietly but left chaos behind. Suddenly, it was just him and his 5-year-old son, Noah, navigating a world that felt colder every day. Jobs became harder to find. Rejections piled up. Savings disappeared. Pride faded. And desperation slowly crept in. So when he saw the job listing, a caretaker position at an old countryside estate that no one else wanted, he didn't hesitate long. The pay was low, the hours were long, and the rumors surrounding the place made most people walk away. People whispered about isolation, about a difficult employer, about a place that changed people. But Daniel didn't have the luxury of fear anymore. He only had responsibility. The estate stood far from the city, surrounded by vast green fields and silence that felt almost unnatural. It was beautiful in a distant, untouchable way, large windows, tall trees, and a stillness that made Daniel feel both small and strangely exposed. The woman who owned the estate, Evelyn, was not what he expected. She carried herself with quiet strength, her presence calm but distant. There was a sadness in her eyes that no amount of elegance could hide. She wasn't unkind, but she wasn't warm either. She simply existed in her space, as if the world had once hurt her deeply, and she had learned to keep it at a distance. Daniel's job was simple on paper: maintain the property, fix what was broken, and ensure everything ran smoothly. But in reality, it demanded everything he had left. Long hours under the sun, repairing old structures, managing endless tasks, and returning each night to a small room on the estate with barely enough energy to think. Yet, for the first time in months, there was stability. A roof, food, a small sense of control. Noah stayed with him, his laughter slowly returning as he explored the vast grounds. That alone made every drop of sweat worth it. But the hardest part wasn't the work. It was the loneliness. There were nights Daniel would sit outside, staring at the horizon, wondering how life had taken such a sharp turn. He questioned his choices, his worth, his ability to be enough for his son. The silence of the estate often echoed those doubts back at him, and then slowly something began to change. It started with small moments. Evelyn noticing Noah drawing on the porch and quietly leaving a box of crayons nearby. Daniel finding fresh food placed outside his door after particularly exhausting days. Occasional conversations that began as practical but lingered longer than necessary. There was no sudden warmth, no dramatic shift. Just subtle, human gestures, the kind that spoke louder than words. Daniel began to see beyond Evelyn's distance. He noticed the way she paused when Noah laughed, as if remembering something she had lost. He saw the quiet grief she carried, hidden behind her composed exterior. And for reasons he couldn't fully explain, he felt a connection, not of romance at first, but of understanding. Two people, both broken in different ways, learning to exist again. Time passed, and the estate no longer felt cold. Noah's presence filled the space with life. Daniel's dedication slowly transformed neglected corners into something beautiful again. And Evelyn, she started to open up, little by little, like a door that had been closed for far too long. But healing is never simple. Just when things began to feel stable, Daniel received an offer from the city, a better-paying job, closer to opportunities, a chance at a more secure future. It was everything he had once hoped for, and yet it didn't feel right. Because somewhere along the way, the job no one wanted had given him something he never expected, a sense of belonging. Leaving meant starting over again. Staying meant choosing something uncertain, something emotional, something real. Daniel struggled with the decision. He spent nights thinking about Noah's future, about stability, about what truly mattered. Fear returned, whispering doubts into his mind. But then one evening, as he watched Noah run freely across the fields, laughing in a way he hadn't in a long time, Daniel realized something. This place had given his son joy again. And in doing so, it had quietly healed parts of him too. He chose to stay. Not because it was the easier choice, but because it felt like the right one. What followed wasn't a fairy tale. There were still struggles, still difficult days, still moments of doubt. But there was also growth, connection, and something that slowly blossomed into love, not rushed, not forced, but built on understanding, patience, and shared pain. Daniel had taken a job no one wanted. And in doing so, he found more than just survival. He found purpose. He found peace. And he found love where he least expected it. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us that even in our darkest moments, something beautiful can still find its way in. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Comment, kindness still exists. If you believe that even the smallest acts of care can